Hi everyone, I'm Ryan. Welcome to my channel, Baking with Ryan, where I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite recipes from my home kitchen. So today I'm going to be making some individual cake cups with these little, they're actually soup containers that I found online. Again, I have a bunch of stuff linked in my Amazon storefront. You don't have to buy any of it. However, this is just a lot of the stuff that I'm using today. I got like a 50 pack of these for, it was between $20 and $30, I think. And so if you're doing like a large party, these would be great for like kids or a picnic or just any gathering or whatever you wanted to use them for. But I'm gonna be using these little cups. Some other helpful tools would be, I have these little plastic scrapers, some piping tips, gel food coloring. I wouldn't really suggest using the liquid because it's going to kind of make your icing a little more soupy. I think I'm gonna be using this glass to kind of help with the icing inside of the cup. And then piping bags, you can use reusable if you want to. I have a bunch of these plastic ones, so I'm gonna be using those, an offset spatula, as well as some cutters. I've had these since culinary school, but we're gonna be using those to cut out the cake today. And then some little couplers. I do have these linked, the ones that I have linked. Don't have, you probably can't see it from there. These have little notches cut out on them. I like the ones that are solid because you can use those to ice cupcakes. And then more piping tips. Yeah, so this is some of the stuff that I'll be using today. Okay, so I have my oven preheating to 325, and I'm gonna go ahead and prep the baking sheet that I'm using. This one is just a 10 by 15. The recipe calls, it would make like a quarter sheet, so like a 9 by 13, but I want my layers to be a little smaller for what I'm making, like a little shorter. So I'm gonna go ahead and just prep this one. So I'm gonna spray the sides and the bottom of the pan all the way around. And the reason I'm doing the sides, even though I'm using parchment, is to make sure that it sticks to the bottom. So then I'm gonna go ahead and take my parchment and just tear it off right to where it meets the sides. Sorry, I know that's loud. So you can have a little come up the sides on each side, but you don't really need any at the end because you have some spray and it'll come right off there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and spray on top of the parchment as well. So the cake that we're gonna be using for the layers inside of our individual cups today is going to just be a basic vanilla cake recipe. And the recipe, along with links to some of the items that I'm using today, will be down in the description. So you start out with 2 cups of sugar in your bowl. And then we're going to add a 1/2 cup of oil. My handy assistant behind the screen. So we're gonna do a 1/2 cup of oil. Of course, this is gonna take forever. And then we're also gonna be adding 3 eggs, which I already cracked because I don't wanna have to wash my hands right now. So 1/2 cup of oil, the 3 eggs go in. And then you're just gonna use a hand mixer. You could whisk this if you wanted to, but I have a hand mixer, so I'm just gonna use the hand mixer. So something I already forgot to add was a tablespoon of vanilla. It's fine to add it right now. And you're gonna want to mix this, and like I said, you could whisk it, or you could even use a stand mixer. You wanna mix it until it's nice and fluffy. You wanna make sure that your eggs are nice and incorporated with the sugar. Okay, so that looks good for the eggs and sugar. So next I'm going to add a half a cup of sour cream. Any kind of sour cream. If you wanted to do light sour cream, that would be absolutely fine. So this, you are just going to mix in until it's combined. You don't have to worry about getting this super light and fluffy like you did with the eggs and sugar, because next we're gonna be adding the rest of the ingredients. So in a separate bowl, you're going to add 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. So the reason you're doing this in a separate bowl is so that you can make sure that your flour and your leaveners and your salt all get mixed together, so you don't end up with maybe like a chunk of baking powder in your cake or bread or whatever you're making. I guess bread. Anyway, so you're gonna add 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, and then 1 teaspoon of salt. And then you're just gonna use a fork or a whisk just to mix this together. This also helps lighten up the flour a little bit and get any chunks of the flour if there's like some lumps out, so that you also don't wind up with any flour clumps in your cake. Okay, so I have my eggs, sugar, oil, and vanilla in here. My sour cream is also in here. I also have 1 1/4 cup of milk and flour, the flour mixture. It's also important, before I started filming, I went ahead and measured out the milk. The sour cream was room temperature, and then my eggs were also room temperature. So that is also important. So to start mixing the dry ingredients in, we're gonna start with adding half of the flour mixture and half of the milk. And make sure when you put your mixer back in there and start mixing again, make sure you start out nice and low speed. And I'm probably just going to mix like this, just to try to get it mixed and incorporated a little bit before I turn it on, because I don't want to wear flour. Okay, so that is just mixed in. You can scrape your sides to get any of the flour off the sides. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of my dry. And you can go ahead and add the rest of your milk if you want to. I'm gonna save a little. I just added it all. We're just gonna add it all. I was gonna save a little bit for the end, just in case there were any clumps, just to make sure that I ended it with wet, but it will be fine. So I'm gonna stop and use my beaters to incorporate some of the dry that's gotten on the sides. This, you really wanna stop as soon as it looks like all the dry has been incorporated. Go ahead and stop mixing, because you do not wanna overmix. You will have kind of a dense cake, or like a tough cake, and you do not want that. Okay, everything is incorporated. Go ahead and put these in the sink. And we're gonna go ahead and put this in our pan. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour this in my pan, and you might not need all of this batter. If you have a smaller pan, like I said, you do not want a very thick cake for these cups that we're doing. So if you have a smaller pan, maybe make 2 pans, or just use as much batter as you need, because you do not want these layers to be very thick. I am not sure if I'm going to use all of this batter. I think I'm just gonna leave a little bit left. That looks like a good amount. Use your spatula and make sure to get it into the corners and just make sure that it's pretty evenly spread out. And then we're gonna put this in the 325-degree oven for about, I'm gonna set it for 15 and then turn it because I do not have a convection oven and I want it to bake evenly. So I'm gonna do it for 15 minutes, and then when I come back, when the cake is baked, I'll let you know exactly how long it took. Okay, so now we're gonna work on our lemon curd filling. So we are going to do the vanilla cake with some buttercream and lemon filling between the cake layers. So to start out with, we're going to zest 2 lemons, and I'm just using my microplane grater here to do this. When you zest your lemons, you want to make sure just to get the yellow part, you don't want to go too deep into the white because it'll get kind of bitter. So go ahead, I have 2 smaller lemons here. Depending on the size, you might want to do more or less, or how much you like lemons. So we're also going to juice both of these, and over here off to the side, I have a measuring cup set up with a strainer just to catch any seeds or pulp that comes through. So I'm just getting the yellow part. That looks like plenty. So now I'm going to, let me find a knife. I'm gonna juice the lemons. I only have 2 here. I might need to grab a couple more. We will see. When you're using a juicer like this, you want to put the cut side down so that you get all of the juice that you can out of it. Looks like I might, ooh, that went everywhere. Looks like I might need a little bit more, so I have a couple more lemons cut up here. Let's see. This one should do it. You need 1/3 cup of lemon juice for this recipe. So that is done. Okay, so in this bowl, we are going to add 1.5 cups of sugar. So the reason in this recipe that you're going to be adding the dry first is we're doing all this in this batter bowl, including cooking it. So we're going to cook it in the microwave, which is something I just recently learned that I could do. So to the sugar, we're going to add 4 tablespoons of cornstarch. Pretty sure that was 4. And then we're going to do a pinch of salt. And then we're gonna whisk it together because you don't wanna get any cornstarch lumps. So just whisk it together until it looks like everything is combined. And then we're going to add 1.5 cups of water. Give that a mix. Then we're gonna add 3 egg yolks. Get those good and mixed in. And then we're going to add our 1/3 cup of lemon juice. You could use like bottled lemon juice if you want to. It's totally up to you. Like, you wouldn't have to use the zest if you don't want to. So if you wanted to use the bottle, that is perfectly fine. So what we're gonna do is we are going to put this in the microwave on regular setting for 3 minutes. And then we're going to take it out and stir it really well, and then put it back in for around 2 minutes. And then we're just gonna see, once it starts to thicken, it's done. You want it to be nice and thick, but you don't want to overcook it. So I will be right back and show you what it looks like after the first round. Okay, so this is after 3 minutes. You're gonna take it out and really whisk it to make sure that everything is incorporated. And if the bottom were to be starting to thicken, that you get it all mixed in. So I'm gonna put this back in the microwave for 2 minutes, and it might be done after this round. Okay, so this is after the first 2 minutes. As you can see, it's starting to thicken up nicely. So I think that this is done. It looks very nice. I'm gonna go ahead, so to this, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of butter and the lemon zest. So go ahead and drop all of that in there. Get off all the lemon zest, and then just mix in until the butter is completely incorporated. So the butter is completely melted in here. So I'm going to show you how I put this in the fridge to cool. So I just have this does not have to be glass, but this is just what I have. A glass 9x13. I'm gonna take some plastic wrap, line the bottom. Doesn't have to be perfect. You just wanna get it in there so you have something to pour your filling into. So now I'm going to take my filling and just pour it directly on top of that. Okay, now spread it out. Like over here, it wasn't completely pushed down in, that is fine. Go ahead and just spread it out. Now, what you're gonna do is take another piece of plastic wrap, go right over top, but you're going to press this down to where it touches your filling. If you do not do this and you go ahead and just put it straight in your fridge, you are going to get like a film on top of your filling. And it's going to be hard and it's just not very appetizing. So this is hot, so you do want to be careful, but I have been doing this now for 11 years professionally, so my fingertips are dead. So there you go. I'm gonna put this in the fridge on top of a cooling rack so that air gets all the way around. You wouldn't wanna use like a hot pad, like a solid surface underneath. I like to use a cooling rack so that air can get up underneath in the fridge. So now I'm going to make my buttercream. So this recipe is kind of pared down a little bit from what I would do if I was, you know, icing like a whole cake. And this one just has regular butter. I'm not doing any shortening or anything like that. I'm using unsalted butter. I am going to add a little pinch of salt, just for a little added flavor. So 1 pound of butter goes in, and that's gonna be it for right now. And this attachment on my mixer is, you can find it linked below on my Amazon storefront. It is a huge time saver when it comes to scraping your bowl. It's shocking how much these the silicone blades actually do get off of this side of the bowl. And don't judge my mixer, it's very old and it is what it is. It also does not have a low speed, so you might get to see some powdered sugar go everywhere. So I'm just gonna start this on low to get the butter broken down a little bit, and then we're gonna whip it until it gets pretty light and fluffy. So now that it's gotten broken down a little bit, I am gonna go ahead and scrape what's on the blade off. And then oh, there went some butter. And then I'm going to scrape from the very top and the very bottom of the bowl. Get all of it back in here. Mixture. And then I'm gonna go ahead and turn this up quite a bit. So you can see that the butter has gotten pretty light in color. So I am going to go ahead and add some of the powdered sugar. So I'm gonna go ahead and add, we need 4 cups of powdered sugar total. I'm gonna go ahead and start with probably about a half a cup and let it mix. So that first little bit is pretty well incorporated. I'm gonna go ahead and add the rest of that cup and then add my second cup. Like I said, I do not have a low speed on this mixer because it is so old, so I'm just gonna pulse it a little bit to get it to incorporate. So now we have 2 cups in here. I'm just gonna scrape. You can see there's a little bit of powdered sugar on the paddle. I'm gonna scrape that off. And then once again, dig down into the bottom of the bowl in case there's any dry powdered sugar down in there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add the 3rd cup of powdered sugar. You don't have to do it this slow. You don't have to do it 1 cup at a time. But I am, just to make sure that everything gets incorporated well and you don't have chunky buttercream. That one is well incorporated, so now I'm just going to add the 4th and final cup of powdered sugar. And you could sift this if you wanted to, or if you noticed that you had like kind of lumpy powdered sugar, because sometimes it happens. You could sift it if you wanted to, but this powdered sugar seems to be okay. So I'm just gonna go ahead and mix this in. And then while the mixer is running, I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon of vanilla. So that vanilla, as you could see, kind of went everywhere, but the majority of it got in the bowl. So I'm gonna I'm gonna scrape the sides of the bowl and then get everything off the bottom. I'm gonna add the pinch of salt and I'm gonna let it run until it's pretty fluffy. If you notice that yours is maybe a little thick, you could add a little bit of milk. Like for this size recipe, probably like 1/8 of a cup of milk if you wanted to soften it a little bit more. But this one is looking okay, so I am not going to add any milk to it. So, pinch of salt and let it mix. Still have to scrape every now and then. I saw that there was some stuff built up on the inside of the paddle. Get that off. And you could see that I was using like regular brown vanilla. You can use clear vanilla if you wanted like a whiter icing. But your icing, if you use butter, it's still gonna be a little bit like off-white. The only way to get like a true white icing that you make from scratch would be with shortening. But I like the flavor of this with butter. So everything is nice and fluffy and incorporated. So what I'm actually gonna do because I'm not ready to assemble anything yet. And I want to put this icing back here on the mixer to get it smooth before I start assembling everything. Is I'm just gonna take my paddle, stick it in there, and then I'm gonna cover this whole thing with plastic wrap. Okay, so the cake has cooled, and as you can kind of see, the cake has sort of domed toward the center. So what I'm gonna do is take a really sharp serrated knife and just kind of level some of that off. You wanna just try to keep your knife as level as possible and just go around the whole cake. Oh, get some paper there. Don't want that. More paper. Just go around and level it off. And this cake, very fluffy. So I am actually going to take this and put it in a bowl because, so we're using round cutters, obviously there's gonna be excess. So I'm gonna take the excess and I'm gonna make some cake balls or cake pops. So I'm gonna move this cake. Since we sprayed it and used the parchment paper, it's gonna come right out of this pan. So I am going to move it onto this little cutting mat just so that I can, so it's a little easier to work with. Came right out. In the sink for later. So I found a cutter, a little round cutter that fits perfectly in the bottom of the cup. So I'm gonna use this one to get my 2 layers. I think the cake might still be a little too thick to get 2 layers in here with the filling. So we're gonna see, we might have to trim a little bit off of here. I should have put less batter in here. So if you're doing this at home using this size pan, go ahead and put a little bit less batter than this whole recipe. You could also use like a normal sheet pan, like half sheet pan, and use the whole amount of batter, and that should give you the right amount. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut out the circles that I need for all of my cups. I'm only gonna do 3 today, so I'm just going to cut out 6 rings. And like I said, I'm going to use the excess for cake pops. So it's okay if you don't go as stingy and get them as close together as I am, but. So we should be able to just pull the cake away, put it in another bowl. And yeah, I think these are gonna be just a touch too thick. So I may end up cutting off this bottom portion of each little circle. Won't be hard. Just use the same serrated knife. Be very careful and just cut as level as you can. Cut that bottom off and they will fit nicely in our cups. So if you end up saving these for cake pops, like I'm going to, just put this in a plastic bag, put it in your fridge and let it sit for a little bit. Or you could go ahead and just throw it in your KitchenAid and mix it together. I guess I will be doing a cake pop or cake ball video here soon. So I'm just gonna put mine in the fridge. Okay, so earlier in the video, I said to make sure just to leave your paddle in your bowl because we're gonna soften the icing back up later. So as the buttercream sits, it gets like really fluffy and bubbly. And while that seems really nice, it's honestly not a great thing because when you go to pipe, it like makes your bag bubble and go everywhere. So what you want to do is go ahead and put your icing back on the mixer and let it soften until it's nice and smooth again. You want to do this on a low speed. Okay, so it is pretty well there. Yeah, that looks good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scoot this out of the way so that you can see a little better. I am going to get the piping bags ready. So one of these I'm gonna save for the lemon filling. And then I think I just got out an extra. So I have 4. Today I'm going to be doing these little cups as like Valentine's themed, since Valentine's Day is not that far away. So you're just gonna cut off the tip of the bags. You don't wanna cut off too much. So then you're going to take your coupler and put it down in the bag. Make sure you press it firm so that icing doesn't come out around the coupler. And I have a couple different kinds here, just because over the years I have accumulated quite a few. It does not matter what kind you use for this, because we are going to be using different piping tips. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get all of these ready. And, whoa. We will then mix up some colors. So today I'm gonna be using these. I do have these linked, but like I said, you don't have to use this brand at all. I'm gonna be doing some different shades of pinks and reds, and then I'm gonna be making some of them kind of look like flowers, so we're gonna do some green as well. So when you're mixing up your icing colors, you don't want to use like a ton, because we're going to be needing some of this icing for the cups themselves. So I'm just going to get just a small amount. So then, kind of like getting a small amount of icing, you don't want to use a ton of color. Red does take a lot to get like a good deep red color. So that's what I'm adding to this one. I like to use these little spatulas. You can pick them up at random stores or online. I might have some linked, but I love these. Over the years, I pretty much just pick them up when I see them at a store, because they are just very useful, especially for making or mixing up icings and stuff like that. So I did use quite a bit of the red, and it's still kind of pink, so I'm actually going to use a little bit of the burgundy just to give us a little bit of a deeper red color. If you don't have burgundy, you can just add more red. I might have added too much, we'll see. Definitely did. But we'll just have a deeper red for this one. So we will have a maroon. We'll use those for accents. So when you fill up your bag, you're going to want to roll down the top, and then take your hand and put it up under where you just folded. Make sure the bag's open. While this bag does not have icing in it, you can use it to hold onto your bowl while you scoop the icing into your spatula. And that didn't get all the way mixed. So we're gonna do that again. So then you're just gonna use this hand as like an edge to scrape your spatula on so that you can clean your spatula off. And then you just wanna squeeze it all down to toward the bottom. You don't want it to come out the end. Twist it, and we're just gonna set those aside. And now we're gonna go right back in this same bowl, because we're making reds and pinks. So I'm just gonna go right back in that same bowl, and I might not even need to add any color, because it's likely going to make a pink. So I'm just gonna mix it up, and it's giving like a very nice rosy pink color. So I'm actually not even going to add any color to this at all. We're gonna go with that. Once again, roll down the sides. You can buy bigger icing bags than what I have here. I actually prefer to use, it's either 16 or 18-inch bags, because normally I'm filling these bags a little more full, especially if I'm working on a cake. So if it's more full, it will come out the end will come out this end easier if it's a smaller bag. So I usually like to get the bigger bags. Twist it and set it aside. We're gonna do one more, maybe in between those two. So we're gonna try to go in between with, let's see, we'll use this rose color and see what we come up with. And be careful, because if this gets on your clothes, I should be wearing an apron right now, but I'm not. It will stain very bad. So that gave us like a really bright pink color, and I'm kind of going for more of a muted color. So I'm gonna go ahead and add just a touch of burgundy. And that got us a little more magenta. So this is very much trial and error. You do whatever you need to add just to get it to the color that you want. There we go. I like that color a lot better. I don't even know if you can actually see this. First video, let's get all the bugs out of the way. So I have two bowls here. However, I think what I'm gonna do for the green, because this is a very basic green color, I think I'm actually going to just add more icing to that bowl, because when you mix like a darker off color with green, it's gonna give you more of a muted green color. And that's kind of what I'm going for. I'm not going for like a grass green here. I'm just gonna add a little. Again, you can always add more. You'll see once it starts to mix with the pinks and the red, it gives it a little more of a, like an off color. If you have brown, you could add a little bit of brown to it. I don't have it out, so I'm just going to add, once again, a touch of burgundy. And that is actually gonna be perfect. It's more of a muted green rather than bright grass green. So that's perfect. And once I get these done, I'm gonna show you the different piping tips I'm gonna use. If you have never used a piping tip, it is fine. I'm going to be doing some very basic decorations on these. So you have nothing to worry about. I remember why I had an extra coupler and an extra bag. I need a bag for white. So this bag of white, we're actually gonna use to fill the cups and for decoration. So I'm gonna put a decent amount in this bag, and you will see why I prefer the bigger bags whenever I fill this one. Make it a mess. So you wanna just do the same thing, but see how little you have up here and the icing's already starting to go toward the top. So if you can, I would buy the larger bags. So I'm going to clean this up and then we're gonna decorate. Okay, so my filling is ready. So what I'm gonna do is, I did end up getting a bigger bag because this is more filling than what would fit in a small bag. You could also use a Ziploc for this. So what I did is I went ahead and rolled down the top, and I'm gonna use a cup to set this in. so that I can a little bit more hands-free from this, handle this. So you're gonna take the top layer of plastic wrap off. It decides today to be very sticky. Take it off so that prevented you from getting that film on the top. And then, this better work. You're gonna take and kind of put it all together until both sides of your plastic wrap meet. And then we are going to, I'm actually gonna cut some of this off. As you can see, this sort of formed more of a sheet. I had taken down the amount of cornstarch in my recipe because it seemed a little too thick the last time I made it. So you're just gonna go ahead and pour this into your piping bag. It's gonna be difficult, but it's working. So that was way easier, less cleanup, and it cooled much faster than it would have if we would have just left it in the bowl. So we have that now to fill our cakes. Okay, so now it's time for assembly. I have you at this weird angle because I didn't want you to be looking like over my shoulder or from the wrong direction. So we are just going, I'm gonna assemble one and then put the rest of them together and then show you how I want to decorate them. So I'm just gonna start by putting one of the little circles in there. And then you're gonna take just your white icing and go around the outside and then just fill in the center. You want to have a little bit of a base before you put your lemon filling in there, because you don't want the lemon filling just to all the way soak down into your cake. So I'm just taking my offset here, sealing that edge so that your lemon filling also doesn't go down around your cake. And so with this extra icing you're gonna have on your offset spatula, just scrape it right back into your icing bowl. In one of my cookie kits that I bought online, which is also linked, I got these plastic scrapers. So I'm going to use it, put it down inside, and use it to smooth the top of this. It's not perfect, but it was doing a lot better than that offset spatula. So just use that to smooth. And then I'm going to take and put another ring of icing all the way around. So you're kind of making a wall on the outside. And then I'm going to take and cut the tip off of the end of the bag with the lemon filling. And I'm just going to pipe the lemon filling here in the center. You don't want a ton, but you want enough to, so everybody knows that it's there. And then you're just gonna take your cake, put it right on top, push it down, and then we're going to do another ring of icing. And this time, we are going to get it nice and smooth. And my hope with using these cups with lids was that there would be a little bit of space so you could put the lid on there with decoration. This time, it does not look like that's going to happen. So we're just gonna live with it. And it's actually going to make smoothing the top much easier. So I'm just going to take and spin the cup around, scrape it off on your bowl, go back and do the same. Just keep going around. And there we go. So we've got the top. So I'm going to set up the other two, and then I'll come back to show you some of the ways that I want to decorate them, and then we will actually decorate them. So these are some of the tips that I'm going to be using. This one's just a leaf tip, a rose tip, 2 plain tips, different sizes, and then 2 star tips of different sizes as well. So here I just have a little white plastic plate that I'm going to show you just like the general technique or whatever you want to call it that I'm going to use on some of these designs. Again, they're going to be super simple. So yeah, I'm just going to start out with, I'm going to start with the larger, focus. I'll start out with the larger of the plain tips. I'm going to use these to make small little roses, not roses, hearts. Get it correct. So what you're going to do is you are, let's see if I can zoom in here. There we go. See if it'll focus. You're just going to take and apply some pressure and do just like a little teardrop. And then you're going to go a little bit to the side and do one in the opposite direction. So just little tiny hearts. Super simple and very cute. So then the other thing that I'm going to do is do some little tiny rosettes and add some leaves to them to make just like a little design along the side of one of these. So you're just going to take your bag and apply pressure and just go in a ring. I don't know if this is going to... So you just go in a circle, heavy, release and swoop. Heavy, release and swoop. So you can do these in all different sizes. So you could go around a couple times to make bigger ones. This is the same technique that you would do to ice like the top of a cupcake. So that's pretty much all that I'm gonna do on these. Like I said, this is gonna be simple Valentine's decorations. If you wanted to not even mess with coloring icing and just do like the plain top and then just add sprinkles, go for it. No one is judging. Do whatever you want. These are super easy to personalize and do whatever you want to the top of them. So I put the plain tip on the burgundy and the darker pink that I just used. So I think what I'm going to do is just do some small little hearts on this one. So again, you're just going to, let's see, don't want to do it on the center. Let's do down here, pressure and release. Pressure and release. So you could do these with a pattern, but you don't have to. You can just do them random, like I'm doing. And just do them, sorry if I'm blocking the screen. It's very hard to do this right in front of me. So for these, if you mess up, like right there, you can see that I drug the tip, got some icing on it. So you can just wipe that off, wipe it on a rag. Pop these in the fridge and you can use a toothpick just to scrape that little tiny bit off once it's chilled for just a little bit. So I'm gonna go back in with the darker burgundy color and I'm gonna add some little smaller hearts in random places. Same technique, just smaller hearts. And again, these would be super cute to take, well, I don't know if kids can take homemade snacks to school anymore like this, but these would be super cute, like tie a spoon around it. If the cake layers were a little shorter, the icing would come a little bit under the lip, and you could put the lids on them, and that would be perfect to take to school for Valentine's Day. So that one, let's see. I might add something else to that one, but I need to get a different tip. So I went and put a smaller tip on the lighter pink here. So we're gonna have 3 different size hearts. Little tiny ones. Sorry, I was focusing too much, forgot to talk. So I think that's super cute for whatever. So this next one, I'm gonna change a few of the tips on the different color bags, and we'll get started on the next one. Okay, so I put the star tip on the light pink and this medium pink, and then I left the regular tip on the burgundy and put the leaf tip on the green. So for this one, I am just going to do like a little semicircle of flowers, air quotes. So we will go in with, and you'll see the different size tips that I grabbed here. So we're just gonna do those little simple rosettes again. So you just go around. Let's try to keep the focus down there, sorry. So we are going to go circle, release, circle, release. Just do these once again in a random pattern. Don't worry if it looks a little off to start with. We're gonna fill back in with the other color. So there's a start. And now this medium pink one has a much smaller tip on it. So we are going to just fill in with this color now. And leave some more space because we are going to go back in with the burgundy. These you can cluster them. You could just do little stars. Keeps losing focus. So now we're gonna go in with the burgundy and almost do like little filler like you would see in a bouquet. So we're just gonna do like little dots, like little berries in the bouquet. Just fill in wherever you see fit. Because we're gonna go in with the leaf tip here in a second too, to do some more filling in. And you could cover the entire top with this if you wanted to. So with the leaf tip, it's gonna be kind of the same pressure and release. And you just wanna go in to any of the spaces. No rhyme or reason. Just fill in any of the gaps. And it will just help finish off the design. Let's see. You could always go in with some white as well to make little berries, but I think that one's pretty cute. And you could also, maybe I'll add some writing here in just a second. So now, what do we do with this one? So on this one, I think I'm just going to do like a large heart design with the different rosettes. So I'm gonna take the light pink with a regular tip and just do a general heart outline. Not getting too close to the edge. That heart is very off center. Oh well. We're gonna be filling in, so it doesn't matter. So now I'm gonna put my rosette tip back on, and we are going to just start filling this little heart with rosettes. And then we'll decide at the end if we wanna put any leaves on it. No rhyme or reason, just filling the heart with little rosettes. And you could just do some plain little dabs with the starfishes. Oh. Not a starfish. Star tip. Oh. That one probably won't get deleted, but save it for the bloopers. So just fill in everywhere. Oh, that was a nice view of my hand. And then we can go in with the maroon as well and fill in just with some little dots if we want to. Just to finish it off. Go over here. It's fun to add using the different tips, like adding different texture when you're decorating too. And if I'm yelling at you because my face is so close to the speaker, I'm sorry. Going down at the bottom so it comes to a point. There, I think that's cute. So now I'm gonna take, because I'm extra, I'm gonna take this one back. I'm gonna add some writing because why not? We're just gonna put some Be Mine on there because it's Valentine's Day. So if you do not know how to write on a cake, my best suggestion would be to get some parchment paper and write on it with a pen or a pencil and just continue to trace it over and over. And you can wipe it off and just keep tracing. Or if you have like a font you want to replicate, print it and put that under your parchment so that when you're writing, you can see it through the parchment and you're tracing over that, just to get the hang of it until you get better, and then you can do it freehand. So let's see if we can keep a focus here while I write on this cake. There we go. So there you have it. Little cakes in a cup, 3 ways. Do it however you want. Make it yours, do different designs. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you would like to see other things or what else you would like to see. Yeah, look forward to doing more videos and showing you some more recipes.